I've been walking in the community. I've been picking up new things from the little libraries. Okay, so the first thing I picked up is this little book called The Hidden Dimension. Great little book, lots of interesting ideas about architecture that seem pretty cool. And the music that you're hearing is from this record called Boss Brass. We're hearing an arrangement by Rob McConnell of Obla-Di Obla-Da. Okay, and so I'm going to read you a little bit from this book. There's a section on French architecture that I think is pretty interesting. Okay. He talks about a lot of different city setups. Okay. All right, here we go. My backdrop. Okay. French use of open spaces. Because total space needs to be maintained and balanced, the urban French have learned to make the most of parks and the outdoors. Hold on, I'm just gonna put on a different song. Okay, I'm gonna just move my backdrop over. State of the art backdrop. Okay. So as I was saying, I didn't mean this song. Hold on. It is the right song. It just hasn't picked up yet. Okay, the French. To them, the city is something from which to derive satisfaction, and so are the people in it. Reasonably clean air, sidewalks up to 70 feet wide, automobiles that will not dwarf humans as they pass on boulevards make it possible to have the outdoor cafes and open areas where people congregate and enjoy each other. Since the French savor and participate in the city itself, in its varied sights, sounds, and smells, its wide sidewalks and avenues and parks, the need for insulating space in the automobile may be somewhat less than it is in the United States, where humans are dwarfed by skyscrapers and the products of Detroit. The star in the grid. There are two major European systems for patterning space. One of these is the radiating star, which occurs in France and Spain and is sociopetal, P-E-T-A-L. The other, the grid, originated in Asia Minor, adopted by the Romans, and carried to England at the time of Caesar, is sociofugal. The French-Spanish system connects all points and functions. In the French subway system, different lines repeatedly come together at places of interest like the Place de Concorde, the Opera, and the Madeleine. The grid system separates activities by stringing them out. Both systems have their advantages, but a person familiar with one has difficulty using the other. For example, a mistake in the direction in the radiating center point system becomes more serious the further one travels. Any error, therefore, is roughly equivalent to taking off in the wrong direction. In the grid system, baseline errors are of the 90-degree or 180-degree variety and are usually obvious enough to make themselves felt even by those with a poor sense of direction. If you are traveling in the right direction, even though you are 1 or 2 blocks off your course, the error is easily rectified at any time. Nevertheless, there are certain inherent advantages to the center point system. Once one learns to use it, it is easier, for example, to locate objects and events in space by naming a point on a line. Thus, it is possible, even in strange territory, to just tell someone to meet you at 50-kilometer mark at the National Route 20 south of Paris. That is all the information he needs. In contrast, the grid system of coordinates involves at least two lines and a point to locate something in space, often more lines and more points depending on how many turns one has to take. In the star system, it is also possible to integrate a number of different activities in the centers of space and less space than with the grid system. Thus, residential, shopping, marketing, commercial, and recreational areas can both meet and be reached from central points. It's incredible how many facets of French life the radiating star pattern touches. It's almost as if the whole culture were set up on a model in which the power, influence, and control flowed in and out from a series of interlocking centers. There are 16 major highways running into Paris, 12 into Caen, 12 into Amiens, 11 from Le Mans, and 10 from Rennes. Even the figures don't begin to convey the picture of what this arrangement really means. For France is a series of radiating networks that build up to larger and larger centers. Each small center has its own channel, as it were, to the next higher level. As a general rule, the roads between centers do not go through other towns because each town is connected to the others by its own roads. Thus, in contrast to the American pattern of stringing small towns out like beads on a necklace along routes that connect principal centers. Isn't that interesting? And then he's talking about cross-cultural context proxemics in Japan and the Arab world, which I think is really cool. He says, in old Japan, space and societal organization were interrelated. The Tokugawa shoguns arranged the daimyo or nobles in concentric zones around the capital, Edo, Tokyo. Proximity to the core reflected closeness of relationship and loyalty to the shogun. The most loyal formed the inner protective ring. On the other side of the island, across the mountains and to the north and south, were those who were less trusted or whose loyalty was in question. The concept, and I guess there are advantages to being in both places. The concept of the center that can be reached from any direction is a well-developed theme in Japanese culture. The entire plan is characteristically Japanese, and those who know them will recognize it as a manifestation of a paradigm that functions in virtually all areas of Japanese life. As noted earlier, the Japanese name intersections rather than streets leading to them. In fact, each separate corner of the intersection has a separate identification. The route itself is from point A to B. The route itself from point A to B seems almost whimsical to the Westerner and is not stressed as it is with us. Not being in the habit of using fixed routes, the Japanese zero in on their destination when they travel across Tokyo. Taxi cab drivers have to ask the local directions at police booths, not just because the streets are not named, but because houses are numbered in the order in which they were built. Whoa. Neighbors often do not know each other and cannot give directions. In order to cope with this aspect of Japanese space, the American occupation forces after VJ Day named a few main thoroughfares in Tokyo, putting up English street signs. The Japanese waited politely until the end of the occupation to take the signs down. By then, however, the Japanese were trapped in foreign cultural innovation. They discovered that it's actually helpful to be able to designate a route that connects 2 points. It will be interesting to see how persistent this change in Japanese culture will be. Interesting. It is possible to see the Japanese pattern that emphasizes centers, not only in the variety of other spatial arrangements, but as I hope to demonstrate, in their conversations. The Japanese fireplace, hibachi, and its location carries with it an emotional tone that is strong, if not stronger, than our concept of the hearth. As an old priest once explained, to really know the Japanese, you have to have spent some time, some cold winter evenings snuggled together around the hibachi. Everyone sits together. A common quilt covers not only the hibachi, but everyone's lap as well. In this way, the heat is held in. It's when your hands touch and feel the warmth of the bodies and everyone feels together. That's when you get to know the Japanese. That's the real Japan. In psychological terms, there's a positive reinforcement toward the center of the room and negative reinforcement toward the edges, which is where the cold comes from in the winter. Is it any wonder that the Japanese have been known to say their rooms look bare because the centers are bare? Another side of the center edge contrast has to do with how, under what circumstances one moves when one is considered to be a fixed feature and a semi-fixed feature in space. To us, the walls of a house are fixed. In Japan, they are semi-fixed. The walls are movable and rooms are multi-purpose. In the Japanese country inns, the ryokan, the guest discovers that things come to him when the scene shifts. He sits in the middle of the room, on the tatami, the mat, while sliding panels are opened and closed. Depending on the time of day, the room can include all outdoors, or it can be shrunk into stages until all that remains is a boudoir. A wall slides back and a meal is brought in. When the meal is over and it is time to sleep, bedding is unrolled on the same spot in which eating, cooking, thinking, and socializing took place. In the morning, when the room is opened again to all outdoors, bright rays of sunshine or a subtle pine scent of the mountain mists penetrates intimate space and sweeps it refreshingly clean. Wow, that's so cool. So this is a book that I'm going to be enjoying continuing to read. Interesting. Anyway, thank you for joining me. I just have to hear a little bit more. Hold on. Thank you for enjoying another edition of our Art Host Tour, which I guess now includes books that I found in the library, the little libraries. Thank you to Boss Brass. Sometime after 1969, but not too far off of 1969. Probably 1970, 71, maybe. I learned a lot. I really like this book. I mean, he's an educated person. If I find more in this book that's really good, I mean, the whole thing on Japan seems great. I can't wait to read the rest of that chapter. I'm really interested in architecture and stuff. Anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. And if you like my channel, please subscribe to my channel. An update on my novel. Oh my god, it's almost done. It's only been 19 days. No, not almost done. Maybe it is. I don't know. We'll see. Got all kinds of plans for it swimming around in my head. It'll all come clear sometime. Anyway, I hope you guys have an excellent and amazing day.